Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chief and Assist, the power behind the chair. I'm Janice Dawson, and me and Anne-Marie Otanez are back with a Snackable. Hey, Anne-Marie, let them know what you're doing.
Hey, hello everybody. Excited to be back to have this conversation. And Janice, I've been thinking about what would be a great topic for us to address with our readers. And a trend that I'm seeing reemerge in the market space right now is this trend around the workforce impacts that we're seeing. People who are getting let go of positions for a variety of reasons, whether it seems like it's a valid reason or not. And something that we had to deal with early on with our employer. And I think it'd be helpful for them to hear some of the things that we did to just get through it because it's
Yeah,
hard, it's stinging, it's
yeah,
challenging, and sometimes it's a shock to your system,
it is.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
And, and,
oh, go
and
ahead.
I want to say one thing that people tend to say to people who experience these things that is the worst thing to absolutely say is don't take it personal. Yes, we know from a cerebral level, this is not a personal attack against you as an individual. However, it's personal because it's my life. It's my way of living. This is what funds my life. This is what funds everything that I do for my family, for my children, for my spouse, for whomever, for myself.
Hmm.
And it to say don't take it personal is to me incredibly insensitive,
Hmm.
um, incredibly short-sighted,
Hmm.
because it has such a personal impact
Yeah.
on the people who are affected by it.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I would love for people to never say to somebody, oh,
Right.
don't take it personal.
Right.
Stop.
Well, and I think you said something that's so important. If you get down to brass tacks, business is personal because it's about relationships and it's
Yeah.
about a variety of types of relationships, but it's about relationships and trying to achieve something, whether
Yeah.
you're partnering with people, whether you're building with people, like whatever the journey is, there are people involved. So it is personal. It is
It,
very personal. It's very hard. I
yeah.
in a previous role was impacted and like it shakes you up because it
Yeah.
makes you ask yourself, well, I was doing the best I could, well,
Right.
me versus like
Absolutely. You're
question.
going to get all those questions to yourself of like, could I have done something better? What could I have done differently? Is it because when I on January 15th of this time I did this and my manager wasn't pleased with me? Like you're going to ask yourself all these questions, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not something that you could have controlled.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, when you get to companies of a certain size, especially, you're honestly an algorithm. You are a number in a spreadsheet. And, you know, one thing I really love about my leader was he addressed this at a meeting that we had a couple years back when we were going through it. And he was like, some say you're a number in a spreadsheet, but I say that you're someone's son, you're someone's brother, you're someone's father,
Wow.
and it's going to have an impact on you.
Yeah.
And, we are going to do what we can to help support you through this process, but we don't take it lightly
Hmm.
that these are impacting people, not
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. I, and I think that I really like that you said that because when I think back to when I was seeing it happen a lot, um, it was interesting because, like you said, you're an algorithm, which sounds very, very cold, but sometimes, and it's not to excuse what's happening, in order for
Mm-hmm.
those actions to take place, there is a removal of who that person is. And it
Right.
just feels like, because let me tell you, I remember the first time I heard all of the tech companies were laying off 10,000 people. I'm like, 10,000 people? Like,
Yeah.
how did you come up with that number? Now, the thing that I have seen, which has been a bit of a silver lining for some people who are impacted, is that they've come back and said, I took this as a break. I took this as my sabbatical. I reinvested in myself. Like I did all of these things to just re-find who I was. Now, that's not the case for everybody because some people, this is a challenging and struggling time. And so I don't want to diminish the fact that it's very, very hard. But for me, it gave me perspective because there's days where I wonder, am I going to fall into that algorithm?
Mm-hmm.
And learning from these individuals who are like, well, I took a step back and at least I was in a position where I could take a step back and it didn't impact me as severely
Right.
as it could have for other individuals. And like I said, I think the thing that I wanted to offer to people as we're having this conversation are what are the things that the chief of staff and the executive admin did to kind of help people prepare where we could for
Mm-hmm.
that situation, and then how do we take care of ourselves? Because I can tell you from my perspective, like I'm off my computer, I walk out of my office and I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. i
Right.
remember I remember one day, oh my goodness, we were yet again told we were going to lay people off. And so I talked to my HR person, talked to my executive. I went downstairs in my house, I
Mm-hmm.
sat on my couch, the TV was off, the phone was heads down over here, and I just sat there. My husband came home. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Not good."
Right.
And I just sat there, like, no, and he didn't turn nothing on because he was like, "She usually will have the TV on when I come home and is doing stuff. She's sitting still and not doing anything."
Can I tell you, that is what you do. We don't do manual labor, right?
Mm-mm.
But working this thing, trying to not just, you're still trying to keep your executive on track, right? So
Yeah,
you're negotiating with people, you're, intercepting things on behalf of your leader. And it requires this. This is a muscle. It gets tired. And so, having to absorb that, just that, we haven't talked about the folks that have been impacted by layoffs who are coming to you, that you build relationships with, who are like, oh my gosh, this happened to me. And like, there's nothing worse than, I'm a problem solver. I'm a person who's like, don't worry, I got you. I got you. At that moment, I only have them from a here, let be a shoulder to lean on,
yeah,
be someone that can listen to them and and empathize with their situation. But this time I don't have them, and to me, that's the worst feeling in the world, and that's a very not exhilarating, a very tiring feeling to
yeah.
have because like you said, you went and sat down on the girl. If I don't know them days, let me tell you something. When there's not a layoff and I'm an EA, I
Yeah.
go home and just lay on the couch, straight up. And they're like, "What you gonna do this weekend?" I'm like, "Look, let me tell you something. I negotiate time for living. I am not negotiating my time. My time is on this couch, looking at that ceiling,
Yep.
and my poor children didn't have a mother on many occasions when it came to after work because I was so emotionally and mentally exhausted.
Yes.
And you feel so helpless and you feel so like I said, as EAs in particular, we're the ones who come and save the day. You need this? Oh, we got you. We're the we got yous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in this moment, you can't say I got you in the way that you want to so that you could put a smile on their face, make them feel satisfied, make them
Yeah.
feel like they got what they need. You can't do anything. And that's like the worst feeling in the world. And so what I do as the EA is, I'm words of encouragement. You could stay in contact with me. You can, when I see things coming around, I'm let you know, hey, I heard this is going on. I heard this is
Yeah.
happening. I heard there's an opening over here. I'm going to do whatever I can to try to help you get to your next, to your next thing. And I do hope, I think it's very insensitive, in my opinion, of me to say, oh, well, just take this time and just think about what you want to do and da da da. you need to make that decision if
Yeah.
that's what this time is going to be. It's not for me to say like, oh, just this might be a blessing. Like
Oh.
I might, if you say that to me and I get laid off, I might punch you. Like it's not a blessing. Thank you.
Right.
Not for me, right? Right. Not in this moment, right? You know. And I am actually of the mind where I'm kind of like mentally preparing myself for if that could possibly happen to me. So like I don't even think it would be as big of a blow to me, but it's
Sure.
still going to be a blow because you don't know what is going to happen. So
Right.
even though I might be mentally preparing myself for this could possibly happen to me, this could, this is what I'm going to do. It's still a shocker when you get hit with it. So,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know,
Well, and I think about the individuals once, again, this, when this was happening a little bit more prevalently, and they would want to talk, I'm like, whenever you want to talk, if that's what you need, yes, I will make myself available. I will open up my calendar. We can whatever we need to do so we can have a conversation. And I try to remind myself, Amber, you just need to listen. This is not time to be saying, like you said, this is a blessing. Like, nope, they don't need, they need to get
they
it
do
off
not need to
their
hear
chest,
that.
say what they need to.
Right.
And if they determine that you are part of their next step, they can invite you into that. I don't,
That's right.
and so, and you and I are thinking along the same lines because we see it happening so prevalently. I ask myself,
Hmm.
if this is going to happen, what am I going to do? How do I try to safeguard myself as much as possible? It's still
Exactly.
a shock because that's still something that I was depending on that's not happening, and now I have to do
Yes.
this and the things that I would offer the folks that are watching us is if you don't have a community or communities, start cultivating your communities right now today when you're done watching this video. You figure out
Absolutely.
who is in your community and you just build that community because for me, not being in a position where I'm laid off today, but remembering when I was laid off, that's what was making the difference for me is that I was able
Right.
to talk to people because as polished as I want to be, as put together as I want to be, nothing feels like a kick in the teeth when something comes at you unexpected
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
impacts your bottom line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your bottom line because you got the company's bottom line and
Mm-hmm.
you've just shown that I've impacted their bottom line by
Mm-hmm.
and so they're getting rid of me. But now you're impacting my bottom line because now I got to figure out, I may get a compensation package, but in some cases now, folks are not getting compensation packages.
Right.
So there, I didn't even get a chance to like plan or be able to, uh, make a secondary plan for if this were to happen to me, and I have less time to
Yes.
recover, right? And so I just, I think that as executive representatives, executive leaders, and people who represent executives, we have to show the dignity for our leader,
Yeah.
and we have to show the compassion for on behalf of our leader. Um, you know, don't get in the mud, don't get into the whys, don't get into all the nonsense. Oh, did you hear the whispers? Like
Mm-hmm.
that. That's extremely unprofessional to do so. I lead with empathy, lead with sympathy, lead with what can I do to help? Because that's what the nature is of the
Yeah.
work that we do. What can I do to help? And it's crazy that we're talking about this. Actually, when I think about it, today when I was working out, I I always listen to. I like to scroll through TikTok while I'm working out. No joking. But anyway, um, George Clooney's movie was called Up in the Air, which was a movie about people who go and lay people off. That's what they do.
Oh,
They go from state to state, city to city, and lay people off. I forgot what the title is. And they had clipped this one episode where the girl who does the laying off was feeling affected because the lady who she was talking to, the lady was like, give it to me straight, give me the bullet points, tell me what you're gonna do. And she's like, well, I know exactly what I'm gonna do, now after this. And the girl's like, oh yeah, what do you have planned? She goes, well, there's a beautiful bridge over by my house. I'm gonna go jump off of it. And yeah. Yeah. And George Clooney's character is telling her, like, well, they say this all the time, and you can't let this impact you, and it's it's not your job to like focus on that. And the girl was just really just shooken by that.
Sure.
And I've seen the movie. Should I give a spoiler? I could give a spoiler. I'm going to give a spoiler.
Go ahead.
The
Go
lady
ahead.
jumps up. The lady jumps off the bridge. It
Oh.
was real. So you just don't know. And I say that to say you don't know the state
Yeah.
that someone's going to be in from this type of situation. And leading with compassion and empathy is paramount. Because you're not going to, I don't know about you, I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that I had this extremely insensitive attitude about, well, it's business. Because that's what we love to say. It's business. And that's just what happens. And yes, it is business. But again, businesses don't run without humans.
No. Well, and I think there's a difference in being insensitive and then guarding your space so you can take
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think with the clip, that was super insensitive. Just like you're saying, it's just business, don't take it personal, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's so insensitive. As leaders, we also need to learn how to guard our space because we're doing this a lot more
Yeah.
and it's very, very hard. And that doesn't mean that you have to disconnect from that person, but
Mm-hmm.
you've got to figure out for yourself, how do you balance being empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
but also recognizing that this is an unfortunate part of the job that we do on
Yeah.
a regular basis because it
Mm-hmm.
can take
Mm-hmm.
you down a rabbit hole and you don't want to go
Yeah.
down that rabbit hole necessarily. But,
Right.
for me personally, like I believe in therapy.
Yes.
That's been a huge thing in my life for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been lucky enough that I can invest in therapy for myself. So when I'm going through some of these periods, not only am I dipping into my community for help and support, I also have medical resources, therapists
Right.
that are available to me so I can have this conversation because it's it's overwhelming. I had a mentor who, oh my gosh, so you're talking about a movie. Let me tell you about the real life. I had a mentor who had to let somebody go on his team. And he had been trying for a long time to bring this person back to the team. And I'm not going to say their name because they may watch this video, and I want to be respectful of just their space. Um, but he'd been trying to bring this person back on, back on, back on, and this person um, was ill. We'll just say that they were ill and ended up passing. My mentor, who is probably literally one of the best people on the planet, had come for the funeral and we spent some time together. And he said, I just need to go out and get a drink. And I don't drink. My husband does. And so the three of us, we all met up and he just sat there and he said, and I'm like, not on your shoulders.
Mm-mm.
And he said, I know, but, and that's the thing that you're talking about. But this man is the salt of the earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Businesses are run by humans.
Yes.
I feel like the worst messaging, I don't know who created this thought process that, you got to separate business from personal. You got to separate your drama from business.
Yeah.
But you are a person.
First.
Personal is the base, is the foundation of
Yeah.
personal. Person is the foundation of personal. So, you know, you're going to, we're humans. We're going to, have feelings. We're going to have thoughts. We're going to have opinions. We're going to have all these different things that humans do. Businesses don't have those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's important that if you need a moment after absorbing all this type of, this information, take it.
Yeah.
Take your moment.
Yeah.
And I love the therapy. Like I said, for me, the last time it happened, what I did, because I was leading this one of our employee resource groups. And so, it was a big layoff that day. It was huge. And a lot of people on the call
Mm.
have been laid off.
Mm.
And so for me, I think my coping mechanism is to immediately go into action. Okay, what can we do to support them? So we had ended up creating like a playbook on supporting laid off workers. We did a forums where we pulled their names to find out like what is your role, how long were you at the company, like some information to get them connected with higher level people who were still at the company who were willing to mentor them, do some resume
That,
writing with them,
yeah.
to do some mock interviews with them, and all these different things so that they can, whether they come back to the company or whether they go someplace else, they can go a little bit more prepared than they
Hmm.
were before they left. And I feel like that, when I think about it, I didn't give myself credit for that in my performance review. But but that was something that we did that for me made me feel like, okay, I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if even if they maybe don't get a job back at the company,
Sure.
I still feel like I left them with something that they could take away. And I think we even went as far as to create a LinkedIn group for them so that they can still commiserate with one
Hmm.
another, commiserate with the folks that are still at the company, so
Hmm.
that they could get the support and resources that they needed after the fact. And I felt like, for me, that was such
Do it.
relief. That was something, doing something. And that was, for me, taking care of me even, because
Yeah.
that's where I value is helping people,
Yeah.
connecting people, helping them be, the best that they can be. So that was why I felt like, so I felt okay with
Yeah.
my contribution to the situation.
Yeah. I think so. I really enjoy that you said that you were able to do this with this group to kind of give them some tools, some things, because there are so many community, and we talked about this. Community is huge, huge, huge. So if, as leaders, this is something that we can help those who are impacted either find, be a part of, provide them with opportunities to associate with individuals in these communities. If you know about them, tell them about them or create one. So the community aspect is big. If you have an opportunity to get therapy, like that,
Mm-hmm.
like here are the resources to help just deal with it. And then as leaders, the biggest thing is to lead with empathy and care and love, and don't feel like you need to solve anything. You need to be present in their moment
Right.
and help them get through their moment, how they need you to get through it, despite you having a million things in your head. And if there's an opportunity to share, get permission to share.
Yes, yes, yes. Get permission, because everyone isn't necessarily ready to, put themselves out there. Even if they did get laid off, they're not necessarily ready to be seen
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there, with everybody else. So you got to be mindful and respectful
Yes.
of people's need to process to to work through this on their own first, so that they don't feel like they are outed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So,
I,
um,
I want to give a shout out though to one of our colleagues who was laid off and created a business from it. It's called he has a group called League of Legends Laid Off, and it's specifically a community for people who have been laid off, and either it's not a story about I was laid off and I was so depressed. Like of course that's part of some of the journeys, but they are talking about how they got back up and things that they were able to pivot to make life
mhm.
better for themselves and their families. And he goes through.
Oh,
He has his own podcast, and I'll post it on our YouTube page. But he has been talking to folks who have been impacted by that they're only folks who've been impacted by layoffs, and talking about their journey and their second starts, their new beginnings that they've created for
Wow.
themselves. So it's really uplifting, because
Wow.
it's all people who's like, well, you know what, this was the worst investing that ever happened to me, and this
Right.
is why, and it shows those things. So I'll post that on our site, and you can check out his podcast. His name is Leo Osahor, and it's an amazing podcast that really is helpful to people who experience this, and it's really good stories of redemption.
That's awesome. I think that you have given us the best way to end this particular podcast for us, because it's on such a positive note, because it's a heavy and serious topic, and it can be
Yeah.
very overwhelming. But out of sometimes the darkest experience, you see this ray of light. And so I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
that's how you are helping us sign off to all of our folks who are listening to us. Great job, Leo. I'm so excited for the community that he's building. And like Denise says, she's going to list all of the information. So make sure that if you have been impacted, or people who have been impacted and they're struggling, here's at least one place that they can go to and get
Yeah.
support. They can be seen, they can be
Yes.
heard, and they can share their stories and hopefully get uplifted from other people who are in the same situation.
I say you'll be inspired. You'll be
Yeah.
inspired by the things that these people have endured and have been able to turn around based on
Mm.
what we know to be such a impactful, so a lot of times negative situation in our lives. And so I think these are some really important stories to hear. So, you know, check that out, and thank you guys for being with us. And like again, we can't forget to plug your book, Money.
I know. So I got to share with you. Last night I've got two more book signings left in the state of Utah, and I did one last night at this local bookstore, Golden Braids. It was amazing. The chief of staff and an insider's perspective in navigating the executive suite. You can get it from Ingram Spark. You can get it from a lot of online retailers. I'm so excited. The reception has been amazing because people are curious about how to navigate as a chief of staff, whether they are in the role, whether they are aspiring. And I've had people who didn't even know about the chief of staff. They're doing the work as a chief of staff, and they're like, "Wait a minute, I,
I'm
wait,
doing this.
that's me, that's me." And so it's given me a wonderful opportunity to at least give them a blueprint. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've had opportunities where I've been able to work with people on a formal basis and coach them into the role. So
Oh,
I
let them
know
know how can they get a hold of you if they
you
need
can
to.
get a hold of me if you. So all of my contact information is in our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So click the information there if you want to get hold of me. I'm on LinkedIn. My name says Anne-Marie Otanez. If you squish it together and put a .com, you can get directly to me via my website. And the latest offering that I have is that I recently received certification for my course in teaching people how to be a chief of staff. So it's 15 lessons that I take you through, some basic fundamentals and some of the stronger core competencies. So if you're looking for someone who's battle tested, who's been there, done that, understands, get in contact with me. And like I said, we've got all the information in our podcast. Subscribe to us.
Yes, please
We like
subscribe.
having conversations. And I'm looking forward to Janice with some of the things that she's going to have going on for her too. So you got two
Yeah.
aces in the hole with us.
Yes, and let us know how you've been able to cope when through these times. And we are looking for all the feedback, all the information, so that we can share with others. Because believe me, whatever you contribute will help somebody.
Yes.
So, you know, don't be shy. Please,
Yeah.
please let us know how you've been able to cope with this. So, on that note, I want to say thank you for coming, and we look forward to talking to you again. And with that, we'll sign off and say goodbye.
Have a wonderful day, folks.